Nathaniel, my friend, welcome to a very cold campfire edition today.
Thank you for having me. It's cold here too. I'm in Indiana, so probably weather's pretty similar.
Yeah, actually, I think you're getting most of the snow that I've been hearing about that's dodging around us, which is kind
Well,
of funny.
thanks very much, Mike. Appreciate
Yeah, you're welcome. I'm going to be
it.
actually down there in a couple weeks, hiking along the Hills Challenge at Pokagon.
I have no idea where is that located.
That's right up at the right around the Michigan-Indiana border.
Okay, so I grew up in Gary, Indiana, so that part of the state I'm familiar with. I'm in Indianapolis now, so I was like, I'm not sure where that is, but I have an idea what you're talking about now.
Yeah, I've been there a few times. It's a very beautiful little area. They've got a nice toboggan run, which is fitting for
Hmm.
this time of year. It's a lot of fun to get down there.
I live by the dunes, so we spent a little bit of time sledding back then, and even learned to ski. It didn't go really well, but I did try my hand at skiing a couple times.
That was actually the first challenge that I came down there to do was the three dune challenge.
Okay, okay,
And hiking up a little hill of sand can be difficult. And this is where it kind of ties into what you do and the philosophy you bring. And I love is looking back on life in order to find inspiration to move forward and continue to grow. And I look back at that moment a lot because it was the first time that I found something different to
hmm.
try to climb up. And the struggles and the adversity at the end were one of those moments that I look back at and I say, I did it then in this new environment. And regardless of where I find myself, I could do it in that environment as well.
Yeah, yeah. That's what happens. Hopefully, when we have those kind of experiences, it just reminds us where we came from and what's possible moving forward.
That's where a lot of us find a big struggle. And I know I'm guilty of this myself in the past because we paint this cloud around where we've been and the things that we've done, especially when we don't like the outcome.
Hmm.
We carry like this sense of self-shame and self-regret, along with a lot of grief. So it can be challenging to paint a different picture around those aspects of our past, especially when you stop and think about those are the times that we really learn about who we are in order to carry some sense of momentum as we go into new chapters of our life.
Yeah, no, I agree. I would say this though, like I try not to spend a whole lot of time in the past because you may have heard me, I may have mentioned this, but let me slow down. My most favorite shows in all the world is The Lion King. And oftentimes when I think about wanting to drift into the past, I think about Rafiki, who's the monkey who hits Simba on top of his head, and Simba says, "What do you do that for?" He said, "It doesn't matter. It's in the past." And so I try not to spend a whole lot of time in the past or in the future. I try to stay where I am in the present and ask myself when I have those situations where I'm starting to doubt. Instead of when I'm starting to doubt that something won't happen, essentially what I'm saying is, what if this doesn't go the way I want it to go? I just ask myself the opposite. What if it goes the way I want it to go?
And I think about my journey. A lot of the time when I get to that question and I look at it from the aspect of it's going to go the way I want it to go, I find it difficult to find the vocabulary to envision it before I get there.
Hmm.
So, it brings me to staying within the moment, really.
Yeah. Well, you can always think about it like from I would say like the connection between our heart and our mind. Oftentimes we fail to connect those two. In our minds we'll say what we can't imagine happening, but in our heart we can feel what we want to have happen. So then the ideal is to give voice to what you feel in your heart, as opposed to the things that go on in your head that typically tell you what's not possible. Like I don't think your heart ever tells you something is not possible. When you love a woman, when you love a child, when you love something, your heart is full of possibility. It's only your mind that tells you or tricks you into believing that something can't be the same as what's in your heart.
I think about it in that way with it being two different hands. You can pull one of two different handles. You can either get caught up in all the stories that you're telling yourself
Mm-hmm.
without finding any fact within that. And then if you take the smoother handle, that's where the facts really come out because all the things that you're trying to do are actually within your heart.
Mm-hmm.
And when you look back on the story, you've actually built all those skills. They've accumulated there in your heart. And they're just waiting to come forward. And when you look at it from that approach, that's where I feel like that confidence to get through that next hill really begin to showcase themselves.
Yeah. And speaking of hills, I would say also like if you realize that we're all going to climb to a peak and we're all going to spend some times in valleys. And without both of them, the land is just flat. So like I don't really get so bogged up on am I going to be in the valley because I know at some point I gotta be in a valley to get to a peak. And I don't spend too much time celebrating being at the top of the peak because I know that if I'm at the top of the peak and there's another peak I want to get to, I got to come down and be in a valley. And I just recognize it like without that sort of perspective, then land is flat. If you're always going to fail, then the land is flat. If you're always going to succeed, then the land is flat. That's just part of life, or just peaks and valleys.
And I think a lot of what to travel further down that trail, a lot of the people that I've worked with and especially taken out on the trail
Mm-hmm.
is the more times that you spend in that valley, there's this sense of fear about success or about the future that come up. And when you're walking through the valley and you get to that next hill, that fear starts to take over. And that's where we get so just complacent within life because the fear prevents us when it's caught up in the story. But then we're also looking up at that peak going, I really wonder what's up there. I
Right.
really wish I could get there.
Exactly.
And I feel like the real conundrum when you're sitting in that valley is that sense of survival. You start building a life right there at the basin of that mountain that you're looking up and wishing you could climb. So then the question becomes, how do you take what you've already built on your back and actually feel safe and comfortable enough to travel up that mountain?
So leaving behind what you, or are we leaving it behind, or are we trying to take it with us? Because
Well, there's certain aspects of life
yeah,
that we shed
take
and
with us. Yeah.
leave behind, but then there's the fundamentals that we've got to take with us as well.
Yeah, well, what you build at the bottom, I mean, I figure you'll use those same strengths and those tools to climb up the mountain. I'm reminded of a guy. He's English. His name is, and you've heard of because you've probably seen his vacuum cleaner. It's James Dyson, and you know the Dyson vacuums or the Dyson hair dryers or the Dyson hand dryers. Wherever you go, there are Dyson products. He is a guy that failed had 5,126 failed prototypes. So when he was trying to make his first vacuum. And I think about like that. I mean, how long was that in a valley? Today, he's one of the wealthiest men in England. Not that wealth is a measuring rod, but the fact that he figured out how to make the vacuum work and has now made a whole bunch of other products work. And I think it was knighted some years ago. So he's Sir James Dyson now. But I just think about that when I'm thinking about moving on to the next level. Someone such as him who spent 15 years, in obscurity, failing in the valley to finally look up one day and find himself on top of the peak.
I love that because it's a story of just taking your time, realizing that you may have this great idea or this great place that you want to go in life, but
Mm-hmm.
it's a marathon. It's not a sprint.
Yes, absolutely.
So when you slow down and you realize I've made these mistakes, this product didn't work or whatever for whatever reason, you're sharpening your skill set. You're forced to look deeper into the environment that you're sitting in to not only take that inspiration from the past that you found, but build, find new tools within that environment, new skills. And ultimately, as I say all the time, when it comes to going up a mountain, it's not about the gear that you didn't bring with you. It's about that drive and that intention because you can make cordage out of, plants and everything around you
Hmm.
in order to get up. It's just finding that willingness inside to do the hard work.
What do you think it takes for people? Here I am. It's your show, and now I'm going to ask you to answer the question. What do you think people have to have inside them to want to keep climbing up the mountain? Like when you take people out and they look at something and say, "I don't think I can do this today."
It's funny because actually on the trails, especially down in Indiana, there's a place called Turkey Run.
I'm
And
familiar with it. Yep.
so you know about the couple hundred steps that are out there. You get to that gigantic staircase, and if you've gone the wrong way, you look up and you see people heaving over the sides because it's a strenuous climb.
Hmm.
And then you look at somebody and they go, I can't do that. And you've already come a couple miles through all kinds of crazy stuff, climbing through boulders and everything else. And you just look at them straight face and you go, you can either go up or you can go back. But that walk back to the truck is going to be just as bad because you're just as tired.
Hmm.
So it's that intention and it's that willingness to really push yourself when things are difficult.
I was thinking that. I was also thinking, is there something that you would say to me other than the walk is just going to be as tiring? Is there something that you would ask me about, like internally, that maybe encourage me to keep moving up the mountain? Or because I guess what I'm saying, what I'm I guess leading to is that my experience has been that oftentimes the people as people, we won't do what we say we want to do for ourselves, but we'll do it for somebody else. So I guess what I mean, for example, we're getting ready to start the new year, and a lot of people are going to make New Year's resolutions. And one of them might be that they're going to come meet you and take this challenge of climbing up this hill. And then they'll sign up. And by 20 days into the new year, they'll have changed their mind. The things that they said they wanted to do for the new year, they're not actually going to do. But if somebody that they love was sick or was dying, we all find a way to muster up all kind of energy to commit to the well-being of somebody else more than we commit to the well-being of ourselves. And I was wondering if you find that, and is that could be can that be a way to get someone like me who might be reluctant to climb up a hill to do it if I'm thinking about it, it's something bigger than myself.
Oh, absolutely. And I always try to keep the light shined on the individual. So I'll ask them to look within their heart and really look at the point and purpose that they think that they are here to serve and understand that, it's not just a mental or a spiritual thing. You've actually got to train yourself physically to get there too. And when you take those steps and you climb up that staircase, you're actually bringing yourself a few steps closer to fulfilling that purpose, fulfilling that drive that's within your heart.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking about. I was in Belize this summer, and there are the ancient artifacts, and they're not pyramids, but they might as well be pyramids. And you can climb up, and I climbed up one, and then there were some other ones that were taller, and I was like, yeah, I'm good. So there was nothing inside me that said climb up another one of these pyramids. But perhaps if you were there, you'd find a way to encourage me to try it, to climb up another one.
Well, I utilize a lot of storytelling along the trail too to keep you motivated and keep you
Gotcha.
going. And I think about, I share a lot of my journey throughout not only working in person, but on the podcast. And, with the background representing an old Hopewell dwelling, there's a bunch of burial mounds down in the Ohio Valley and different things like that from the Hopewell and Adena culture. I climbed up one of those one day where I was really struggling with a lot of, you know, remorse and things like that. And I went up there, I sat and I meditated for probably about 10, 15 minutes. And I had this like real spiritual moment that teased a lot of these questions and things out of me that I knew were there, they were there, but I just kind of shrugged them off.
Mm-hmm.
And when it finally I dealt with them in that moment, when I got done and I stood up, I felt a lot lighter. And, to me, going out and taking somebody on a trail, that's the sort of things that this is about. It's not about all just the physical
Mm-hmm.
aspect of it, it's the spiritual side of it as well. And, when you look back, as we started the show out on with the past, you look back not only on your own, but just, history in general. And especially when you take that into the outdoors, you have this forum where you can actually connect and let things go, let things move through you because there's that support underneath your feet, or if you're sitting or whatever the case may be, that goes beyond words, it goes
Mm.
beyond feelings. And to me, I feel like that's something that when you tap into, it brings all these different skills and traits out of your heart that are leading you toward not only growth, but ultimately your set goal or your purpose in life.
So it sounds like it's a whole mind, body, soul encounter.
It's exactly what it is.
Yeah, and also sounds like you were saying it also is a bit cathartic too. Like you said, you go and then you also meditate.
Most
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah, yeah. I don't know that there's anything I do that's like that. I write every day, so writing for me is like that. I don't actually move anywhere because I'm writing, I'm sitting, but writing is a whole mind, body, spirit kind of a thing for me. I in the first 20 minutes of each morning, I write my life as I like it to be and not as it is. So if as if as an example, if I knew that I was going to take a climb with you, I would probably write about the climb before you and I did. So I would see myself having completed it and I would write it and sort of emote it in my writing of how it was going to feel when I do this climb. Not just the part about getting to the top, but all of the trials and tribulations on the way up, and maybe about trials and tribulations I've overcome in the past. And so that I can prepare myself for the climb before we even have done.
It brings up a lot of Seneca's old ideas, especially the idea of the worst thing that can happen. It's not about the defeat. It's about saying, I never expected that to happen,
Right.
and giving yourself the time and space to really prepare for anything that could come up.
I didn't know Seneca said that. I know the quote about luck being where preparation and uh, luck is where preparation and opportunity meet. But I didn't. I'm gonna have to look that one up. I didn't know that. So yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to me, actually, it's funny because even though I do things the way that I do, the Stoic background and all the writings and things like that have been very inspirational and very helpful for me in those dark moments. And there are things that have really stuck with me, and they've opened me up to this whole new philosophy and perspective on life, which is about taking your environment and discovering ways that you can prepare for what's next, while also, to touch earlier with the idea of projecting success.
Mm-hmm.
What does that look like? What's the vocabulary around it? Being ready to incorporate all that and really think deeply on it.
Yeah, that's important. I think when we think about most people think about success, we're thinking about, as my grandmother used to say, things that rust and moths do destroy. We're thinking about like trinkets and financial stuff, and I really think, like again, you climbing is really interesting to me because I think of success as every step that you would take. So I know that each step, if we were climbing a mountain and it was I don't know, a hill or a mountain, it was 1,000 feet as an example, every step would be a success. But most people would only see it as a success if you got to the top. like that might be the ultimate success, but to take the step, each step forward, to me feels like it feels like a success because you could choose to stand still or go backward.
Absolutely. I learned a long time ago, it's not about the destination, it's about the journey.
Mm-hmm.
And the more that you incorporate that, you stay present within each footstep. And it's a great walking meditation practice, actually, feeling the sensations and impact of each footstep that you take. It really, it I've discovered is a real entry point to the whole idea of meditation for a lot of people, because the things that we've talked about are just a lot of people have a hard time with them, because it feels untouchable. It's kind of just like that. Oh, yeah, it's a pipe dream type thing. And when you break it down to something so simple,
Right.
it's just a footstep,
It's
one
just
step at a time. It's like, oh, I can do that. It's an awakening point, and it brings them forward into that arena of true growth and real meaningful results.
you remind me of this. Well, because now we're in the holiday season, you remind me of this old cartoon. I want to say Santa Claus is coming to town. Does that ring a bell, or you may be too young to remember that? It's
Oh
a,
no, I
you do,
remember gathering around a
or,
weekday night and watching it before bed.
and I think it's the is it the snow monster or something, and he's trying to learn how to dance, and they said just put one foot in front of the other, and soon you'll be walking across the floor. And there's just this whole song to it. But that's what I was thinking about. Yeah, foot in front of the other.
It's exactly it too. It's like the most basic logic that we're taught as kids. But on the other hand of that, we're also taught the art of finding distractions. And it's bringing yourself back into that childlike curiosity that really reminds you life is that simple. It's a matter of one step at a time, and you find your momentum, you find your way.
Yeah, I agree. I have a cousin. She's now a younger cousin. She's now 10. And 9 years ago, probably closer to 10 years ago, when she was an infant, I wrote about my some time I spent with her, and I wrote that it reminded me of the sort of the innocence of childhood, but also all the lessons that we can learn from children because she was learning to crawl, and I said sort of in the piece that at first she all she could do was lay on her back, and then she was able to lay on her stomach, and then one day she decided to scoot across the floor, and eventually she started to crawl. And I said it's not going to be long when she's going to start to try to stand up and walk, but at no point in time is she going to be deterred from standing up and walking. She's going to continue to try. I'm like, what if we as adults had that same spirit where it was okay?
It's a great adage too, because there's a book called Just Keep Going by George M. Marshall III,
Okay.
where he talks about how life has these two faces. We celebrate the good, but that would be meaningless if we didn't have the bad.
Right.
And he brings it up in that exact same way of learning how to walk. You fall down many times, but
Mm-hmm.
you get back up. And through life, you end up really having an option. You're either going to take that negative vocabulary and that's where you're going to stay, or you're going to find a way back into that childlike curiosity and determination, and then you're going to move forward. As we start to run out of time, though, I want to make sure I give you time to do all that self promotion stuff and let people know how to get in touch with you,
Hey,
work with you, all you got going on, coming up, all that good stuff.
well, I'm not one for self promotion, so I'm going to start with this as we're wrapping up. I want to say thank you again, and I want to let you know I'm grateful for having the opportunity to talk to you. Um, People can find me. It's simple. I have a website just like everybody else. It's Nathaniel Nathaniel, the letter A, and turner.com, and whatever else anyone would want to find for me. If you want to find a YouTube page or Instagram, whatever. There's the links there, but I'm not much of a guy who's into self promotion. I wanted to come on and see if I could do anything or be a service to your community.
Absolutely. I feel like you've really helped build that vocabulary, which is really cool. I'm really grateful for that. That's what I really strive for is to help move from that victim mentality and vocabulary to the vocabulary of a hero's journey.
How long have you been doing what you're doing? I know you
I
like. Go ahead.
I've been doing this about 5 years now.
Okay. The YouTube podcast and stuff, or the climbing also.
Yeah, I've been doing the hiking since I was a kid. About
Okay.
5 years ago, that whole aspect changed for me spiritually and emotionally when I brought in the meditation. And then from there, it was kind of like, I want to give back because it was a podcast that changed my life and putting that energy out there. So the podcast's been rolling for about 5 years.
Okay.
This year, I made the jump to actually starting to do in-person events and taking people out hiking and stuff like
Really
that.
cool. Um, you said you are near Detroit.
I am.
So in the summer, maybe I can come in the summer.
Well,
Summer.
actually, if you're feeling really, really brave about it,
Uh-huh.
and in 2 weeks from Tuesday, I'm gonna be down at Pokagon doing a winter hike with a good buddy of mine. More than
Yeah.
welcome to join.
No, 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 no. Did you hear what I said? In the summer. In the summer. The
Oh,
spring, the summer, early fall, maybe. No, thank you.
absolutely though. We can definitely put something together down the line.
No, I think that would be really interesting, and I think it would be really cool, honestly, to figure out how to get maybe parents to do something like that with their children.
Yeah, that's and on the back burner for next year is really starting to expand it. This year has been a lot of kind of feeling it out, working with it as it comes up and building it. And now next year we're really gonna work on expanding that.
I was just thinking like my son who is now 29, but when he was 16, we um we climbed well parts. We didn't climb all of it. We climbed parts of the Grand Canyon, and that was like one of the most invigorating moments in both our lives because at one point we stood at the edge of the canyon. I want to say our toes were probably hanging off the edge, and we're looking, I guess, about 3,000 uh, feet above sea level, and we're looking down into the canyon, and we both kind of marveled at just how alive we felt with our essentially on the edge. And I'm like, oh, you know what? Everything good happens on the edge. You can't always feel so safe. You can't make yourself put yourself in harm's way all the time. But there's something special about being in this one particular spot, and if we could figure out how to master that and just how we live our life, that might be a really cool thing to do.
Most definitely. For me, it's about that calculated step, but yet having that confidence within yourself in case you fall, step off the trail or find yourself in a different situation, you can blaze a trail back.
Right.
And with the project and everything, that's where I found myself is in the spot where I'm blazing a trail because it's something that isn't really out there. So blazing that new facet and getting to connect with people and actually impact them in a way that's very comfortable for them is like one of the most coolest and rewarding things that I've ever experienced because I know for me, meditation, when I first argued about it in a therapy session, was, yeah, right, dude, I'm not shaving my head. I'm not doing this, not doing that. And then I went out back and I started shooting my nightly crossbow practice, and I'm like, man, I'm doing everything I just argued about. And then I took it into the outdoors, and I'm like, dude, this is something. There's something to it. And just the other night, I hosted a meditation class, and one of the first ladies that showed up for it, the first thing she said was, I could really use this. I really need this. And having that kind of an impact, it's like, you fill your own cup and it branches out, and eventually, it really makes an impactful and lasting difference.
Yeah, it sounds like your cup runneth over, and now you can pour it into other people, and you get a fresh dose of new stuff on a daily basis.
Exactly. And that, that's the fun part of it. That's where it just gets very unique and very cool. And actually, we're about to run out of time. So
Ah,
I don't believe in goodbyes until we meet again, whether it's in this life or the next. I wish you a safe and prosperous journey.
and this one may be in the summer.
Most definitely.
All right, my brother. I appreciate you. Have a good one.
You too.
All right.